Oh, hi. Okay, so we are still working on this Regency dress. Last time I finished the bodice, or at least most of it. The front was still being worked on. This video mainly focuses on the skirt portions and how it connects to the bodice, waistbands, the apron front, how that fastens, all that stuff. So, previous me will take it over from here. So, I have finished basing on the fashion fabric onto the sleeve straps. And I wanted to work on the bodice front some more, but this is supposed to be an apron front dress. And so I kind of have to work on the skirt portion to connect the front to the apron of the apron front dress. And so it was time to move to the skirt. All of my other Regency dresses have like cartridge pleating or gathers. Um, And so, in order to do that, I would just fold over the top and cartridge pleat. So, I was attaching the finished top edge of a cartridge pleated skirt to the finished waist edge of the bodice. However, if I'm doing these pleats, I just have these pleats on. And so I was thinking I might fold them over or maybe try to whip them, and I still might do that. But another thing is in order to create these skirt backs, also, I wasn't going to start with the front of the skirt because I kind of want gores. Um, just with how this fabric is, I don't think just straight panels gathered all the way through is going to, it just didn't feel right. And so I'll do some gores, angle that side cut, flip it around. However, that was more than I wanted my brain to figure out at the moment. So I started with the back. To create these panels, they're just the full width of the fabric, about 45 inches long. And I kind of have it under my bust. This is about where my bust stops in my stays. And it's not, I don't have a ton of space for seam allowance and hem, and it still kind of be maybe touching my toe tops. I don't want it to quite be floor length because I sort of want this to be an everyday-ish kind of gown that I wear. Even though it's gonna look kind of fancy just because of how the fabric works and the design. Um, so I think two birds, one stone. I will add a waistband to connect the skirt and the bodice, and that way I might be able to eke out another maybe inch or so, so that instead of this connecting directly to the bodice, I can connect it a bit lower, and the waistband kind of give me, I don't know, some amount of real estate, so that maybe I can make a deeper hem down there. Like I said, I usually do cartridge pleating on my Regency skirts, but I went with just regular pleats this go around. That's just kind of what was coming to me. I don't know if I like how it's sitting up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pleat up this other side and sort of just pin it to the bodice and put it on to see how it's laying and flowing with the size pleats in this fabric. Like, cause I don't know if I like all the poofiness under the pleats. I could like maybe iron the pleats down a long part of the way, or maybe once it's actually on the dress, I'll like it more. I don't know. So I'm gonna pleat up this other side and give that a go. All right, we'll do that right now, and I'll come back. Bye. So I think I need to redo the skirt. After consulting 18th century dressmaking, I feel like, especially because I'm used to using very gauzy, light, delicate fabrics, that I want a wider circumference on my hem. Like, this book says 150, and I think that's probably about what I've done for like my gauze and my linen, cotton, all that. But it mentioned if you're doing something a bit stiffer, like a silk taffeta, which this is trying to replicate, maybe narrow it down to about 90 to 100 inches in circumference. And this, just the back, is already 120. And it feels poofier than I want. Like, not awful, not terrible, but there was going to be another 60 inches in this, which is way more than what they suggested for how this fabric feels. So I think I'm gonna take it out, take it all out, and do it, and maybe only do 120. But then I still felt that I was going to put gores into the front panel, so I was gonna take the whole width of the fabric, which is 60 inches, make it a trapezoid, flip the panels I cut off around to make it even wider. But maybe I just cut them off. I don't know. I gotta think more. Well, like, it's not bad. It's not quite. It's giving more. It's giving more 18th century than 1820s, which is about what I was going for. It's more columnar the further along in the Regency that you get. Like, if this were 1790s, all this floof and poof would probably be fine, because I'd probably be taking it from a gown that I already had if, I was a woman of the day and couldn't afford, make a whole new dress. Take the gown I already have, restructure it, realign some things, boom, new gown, and just keep the fullness, because that's kind of what the style was. But I was thinking this would be slightly like just later Regency, and so it's just not quite giving what I envisioned. So I'm going to undo all of this and refigure it out. Okay. Okay. So after looking at other videos and posts of 1820s style Regency dresses, I decided to make two trapezoids, one for the front, one for the back. I did that by taking the full width of the fabric and coming in, like, for the front, I came in 5 inches on the bottom, and then no, that's for the back. For the back, I came in 5 inches for the bottom, 10 inches for the top, so that instead of being 60 inches around, 10 inches on each side, 40 in the back. So that would leave, yep, 40 at the top, 50 at the bottom. And for the front piece, I took out 10 and 15. So 15 at the top, 10 at the bottom. I'm sorry. There's a tiny cat quake happening. Uh So what I planned on doing was taking those two differently sized trapezoids, one smaller, one bigger, the bigger one coming from the front piece, the smaller one coming from the back piece, to create a larger trapezoid. Because a few of the different patterns I've seen, I know Laughing Moon 138 has like a trapezoidal shape, and it has a front trapezoid, side trapezoid, back trapezoid. At least that's what it looked like. I don't have the pattern. I was just looking at the dresses the pattern made, and that's what it looks like. No one can see what I look like with you rubbing your face on the mirror. Let me show you. So, actually, let's start with this. I think this is the front piece. Maybe, I can't tell. So, more was taken out of the top so that the top was narrower and the bottom was wider. This is the front trapezoid. Then the pieces that I took out of this, I flipped so that the narrow portion was at the top, because to make this trapezoid, the original cut had the narrower bit at the bottom. Flip that, put the two narrower tops together and the wider ends together of the offcuts from that, and created something like this. This is the piece that came from the back, since I cut a little bit less off the back. This is the trapezoid piece that came from the front. I made sure that the narrower ends were at the top, and this is the new trapezoid that I made. See, this is why you aren't in here when I do this. Can you go somewhere? Thank you. Now, my next step is to sew these two pieces together to have one side trapezoid piece. And then I will sew the narrower trapezoid free side to the front and the larger to the back, like so, to hopefully get the shape that I want. Now, a lot of these 1820 style dresses have some sort of Mm. decorations at the hem that make the hem stand out more. Some of that has to do with the fabric that the dress is made out of, but also with how it is trimmed. So some of that is done with padding in the trimming to help it stand out more, and also just like a stiffer sort of trim could also do the trick. I could do some stuff with self fabric because the whole front panel I had planned to put in the front of the skirt is no longer needed now that I have my front and back trap, because I don't need that whole front panel. That leaves me a lot of length to maybe do some self fabric trim. But I plan on going to the fabric store soon, so I will be looking for trims that go well with the dress, but could also help the hem stand out. But I also have now a whole front skirt panel worth of fabric I could use for that. But in the meantime, I will sew those two off-cut trapezoids together to make a larger side piece trapezoid, and then probably sew that to the back, and then see how much fabric I need to pleat up, because since it's no longer a straight panel of fabric, I won't need to pleat up as much in the waist of this dress, but still enough. Like, it's still more than what my underbust slash empire waist circumference is. So there will be some pleating. I want there to be minimal pleating in the front, just like maybe just at the sides, but like a fair amount in the back. So once I'm done sewing those two side pieces, the two pieces that make up the side piece together, then I will sew those to the back. Pleat. Sir, you can't let me talk. You can't even let me talk. Sew those together. I gotta go give this cat some attention. Okay, bye. Okay, so I've done a few things. I repleated the skirt that I cut down. So now the circumference is probably around like 140, maybe. Um, Repleated that, definitely like how it's sitting better. I also did the other half of the front bodice. And then for the front part of the skirt, I sewed it to about like, I don't know, mid upper thigh area, so that it would be easy for me to do the apron front portion of this. And I added just one fairly sizable pleat on each side of the front skirt. And then from here, I have a waistband that I'm going to apply. So on the back, I put a waistband that is cut on the bias, thinking that that bias would, I don't know, really show off the color changing qualities of this fabric. But honestly, it does not look that different from the straight of grain piece. Also, this is a little low. I feel like it needs to be here. Yeah. So I'll probably need to pin that in place. But yeah, so next is probably just tacking down and or ironing these bodice pleats in place, and then applying the skirt to the waistband and the waistband to the bodice, and then that will be the main structure of the dress. After that, it would be sleeves and some of the trim that I purchased, which is gorgeous, by the way. It's like this deep plum velvet. You'll see it. So I think that is probably what I'm going to do next. Apply all of the skirt to the waistbands and connect that to the bodice. All right. Okay, so I have pinned up and actually sewn some of the hem so far. Let's see if I can get the front on. Okay, it has been pinned at the lining. Then I'm gonna have to move you, I'm pretty sure. I'll just say right there for now. This hooks and eyes in the back. I made this so that technically I could get myself into it. There we go. But it's not the most elegant solution. We'll see. Then do the same on this side. Goodness. There we go. Now I can put you somewhere more decent. And then there are waistband closures that I'm still going to put on. Okay, so mainly I just wanted to put it on to make sure that I have the hem how I want it. It's a little wrinkly because she has been sitting in a corner for a few days. It seems like it's a little uneven, but like not in a way that I particularly mind. Um, I have two hook and eyes, or like thread loop and a hook for the very tip of each front, which is what connects back here. And then I have I actually? I don't think I have. My plan is to tack some of these pleats down. So I think that's what I'm going to do next when I'm like actually done with the hem. But I think I'm pretty happy with how this hem is like maybe it's a little high on this side over here. What is it? My left side. So maybe I can think about taking that down. But that is the more wrinkly side as well. Maybe. I don't know. This definitely needs a thick ironing. Um, but yeah, so I want to tack some of these pleats down and then do gathers on the sides, or not gathers, sorry, trying to get my brain together. Do some sort of closure on the side, and then that would leave the sleeves and the decorations. So tack down some pleats, fastenings on the sides, sleeves, trim. Now, when I see a dress get this finished, I'm like, I'm almost done. I have a bodice, I have a skirt, like, boom, practically a dress already. But sleeves are its own thing. And I also plan on making two sleeves. So I'm going to have a puff sleeve and then also a long sleeve that will probably be detachable. And then trimming, sewing can be considered art, but for me, it's more engineering. When it comes to trimming, trimming is just straight up art. And there's so many ways to do. There's no right way to do trimming. How do I want to decorate this cake that I'm wearing? And that is not quite where my artistic uh, tendencies lie. So that's gonna be its own whole thing. So I think we're stopping right here because even though look at me, oh my gosh, get it together. Even though this dress looks rather close to being complete, I know that sleeves and trim and making sure this uh, fastens the way I want it to, the closures are how I want it to be. That's probably going to take more time than I always think it does. So we're here. This is where this is. But I'm going to keep continuing. But like this video is done right here. But here she is so far. Yeah. Swooshy. Yeah. Okay. I'm excited to see her final form. But I kind of like her how she is right now. Yeah. Okay.